Hi, I'm Mike Barham. I'm the Media and PR Manager here at Galco Holsters, and I'm here today with Max Michel, World Champion Shooter and Galco Brand Ambassador. Welcome, Max.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Hey, so we'd like to start out a little bit talking about your background in shooting, just your general background. I know you've been shooting since you were a very young man and have basically made a lifetime out of it. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, very fortunate and blessed to have been born into a family that likes guns, number one, and born in New Orleans, Louisiana, where typically guns are a way of life down there, whether it's hunting, fishing, shooting competitively, recreationally. My dad got me started shooting when I was just 5 years old. It's kind of a tradition in the Michel family. When you turn 5 years old, you get your first rifle and your first pistol, and you go out and shoot. And that's kind of how the shooting for me started. And at that time, it was just hanging out with my dad. That's what I really wanted to do, right? Just kind of a way for us to get together and shoot and do something as father-son that you don't always get to do as a family. So it was kind of neat to be able to do that. And we moved outside of the city into another town nearby New Orleans, and they had a local indoor range. My dad went there to go, I guess, just plink one day and kind of, check his groups out and whatnot. And the range was shut down because of a competition. And I was only about, I guess, maybe 6 or 7 at that time. So my dad was like, well, what's a competition? Why can't I shoot? Why are these guys shooting and I can't? So they explained what the competition was, and that's how he got started. And then I was there just picking up brass, painting steel, loading mags, doing all that stuff, and just shooting became a way of life for me. I did everything else like every other young boy, wanted to play football, baseball, basketball, do those types of things. But by the time I was 13, I realized that wasn't going to be the road that I was going to be able to go down. I wasn't going to be a 7-foot basketball player. It just wasn't going to happen. But shooting was a passion of mine, and I loved it. So I put everything I had into it from the time that I was 13. I shot, like I said, up until I was 5, but from 5 till 13, I was just shooting. But when I was 13, I dedicated everything I had to that. And I would shoot 4 days a week, dry fire the rest of the days, load ammo, clean guns, that type of thing. And then just started going all over the country competing at that point.
Okay, so after that, you moved on to shooting for the Army Marksmanship Unit. So can you tell us how that happened? I was actually in the Army for 11 years, and I was a fairly decent shooter, but nothing like the AMU. So can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with that?
Yeah, so I got involved in the U.S. Army. When I was 13, I started to kind of go outside of the state of Louisiana to compete. And I was shooting at the Area 5 Championship in Missouri somewhere, and I remember seeing these guys running around in black and gold uniforms, and they were just kicking everybody's butt. And I told my dad, that's what I want to do. That's when that was the moment for me when I kind of threw basketball, baseball, football, traveling sports out of the window, and I said, I want to be that. I want to be that guy that kind of travels the world and represents his country in the way that they do. They were just awesome individuals, and they shot really well. And that's how I met them when I was such a young boy, and I just kind of kept in touch with them because they were based at Fort Benning, Georgia. I shot against them and with them quite a bit up until the time I entered the Army. And when I was 16, I was competing in the one of the larger championships in the country. It was the Pan American Championship, I think. And I met the U.S. Army shooting team coach, and he was like, hey, do you have any interest? And I was like, thank goodness you asked, because I have a lot of interest in this. And when I was 17, I joined the Army with both parents' consent. 6 days after high school, I left and I joined. I was infantry, so I did 11 Bravo there at Fort Benning.
Me too.
Awesome, man. So I was there a little over 10 years at Fort Benning. But my main focus was I was able to join the U.S. Army shooting team, the Army Marksmanship Unit, which was a unit that was formed in 1956 by President Eisenhower. Not to bore you with all the details, but it's a really cool way of just showing the rest of the world what we were capable of as a country. And it was great. It was unbelievable my time in the Army. My first couple of years, I was shooting literally 1,000 rounds a day, 5 days a week, for 8 to 10 months out of the year, which is pretty incredible to think all those taxpayer dollars I was using back then. And it was a lot of fun. But once the war kicked off, that's when I realized what I was really there to do. And it wasn't just about winning championships and setting world records. All those things meant something to me. But really, what I was there to do was to give back to the warfighters and enhance combat readiness.